We are one day away from the 2025 NBA draft, and we have a lot of rumors to discuss here around the Miami Heat. I am Nic Rohloff, host of the Heat Report by Chat Sports. There is rumors out there that Miami may be eyeing a certain NBA draft prospect by the name of Walter Clayton Jr. Also, could the Heat trade the 20th pick plus some other assets to the Kings for Malik Monk and Devin Carter? But make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you are not already, because we will be live for the NBA draft round 1 tomorrow night and Thursday round 2. Heat don't have a second round pick, but we're still going to be live and hang out. Subscribe for daily Heat content and join us for NBA draft coverage. Before we get into what was said about Walter Clayton Jr. around Miami, there is a lot of buzz about if the Heat will keep the pick or trade the pick. It's going to be such a fascinating discussion to see if a trade could happen on draft night, during the draft, before the draft, or maybe they make the pick knowing that they are going to trade it for someone else. But we are going to treat the first half of today's show like the Heat are drafting this player to keep this player. Adam Finkelstein of CBS Sports reported this morning that Walter Clayton Jr. has reportedly had multiple workouts in Miami and has recently canceled workouts towards the end of the first round, which is probably very telling. He is one of the very best shooters in this draft. And if you're looking at this face value, you could be looking at it like he canceled workouts because he's received the promise from a team and he's had so many workouts for teams in the late teens, the Heat at 20, to where like, well, I'm not going to go work out. Or maybe he just feels like he's done enough workouts in the pre-draft process. That's too. You could also look at it in terms of, well, the Heat gave him a promise. If he's on the board at 20, they're going to take him. Let's just say that is what is happening here, and that's why he canceled later workouts in the back half of the first round. I think this is a very bad decision for the Miami Heat. There is a lot of good with Walter Clayton Jr. There's a lot of bad with Walter Clayton Jr. I just do not think that he is a good fit in Miami, and the size concerns, the inability to get to the rim is something that really concerns me. He is an older prospect who is very experienced. He started actually playing at Iona under Rick Pitino before transferring to the Florida Gators, where he spent the last 2 seasons and ultimately won a national championship this past year for Florida. Obviously won the player of the tournament in March Madness as well, and he put together a really good season, and he is one of the best shooters in the NBA draft. There's no debate about that. He also does a lot of it off the dribble, which is impressive, and there are things to like. Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful when I go on social media and say that I would not like this pick for Miami. There are good things with Walter. One of them is not his size, though. He is 6'2" without shoes, 6'4" wingspan. And so when he's wearing shoes, he's just over 6'3". And that's not like a kiss of death. Like, there's a lot of guards in the NBA that are 6'3". Like, Jeremiah Fears is 6'2" and change. So it's like, I don't think that because he's 6'2" means that he is undersized and he's going to be bad. No, the wingspan plays a lot into that because he's not long. He's not going to be disruptive on the defensive end. And if we're going to be frank, when we watch him play and watch his tape, he is not a good defender whatsoever. You could blame some of that because he just was used so much on the offensive end and he doesn't allot a ton of his energy to the defensive side of the floor, and maybe that would change at the next level. But if you were going to be a little bit undersized at that point guard position, you have to be a pest. You have to be very good defensively. I look at a guy like Andrew Nembhard, who obviously is the off-ball guard for the Pacers just in the finals. He was 6'3" and a quarter without shoes when he measured into the combine, 6'5" and a quarter wingspan, so just about 1 inch longer than Clayton in both height and wingspan. And yeah, he's undersized, but you see he's one of the better defenders in the NBA. I don't see that from Walter Clayton Jr. in terms of his film. Would he be able to change that? I'm not so sure. Before we get more into Clayton Jr., would you draft him with the 20th overall pick? I know a lot of people like him. I think it's Florida bias, and if he did the same exact thing in his college career, won a national championship, whole 9 yards for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, I don't think Heat fans would be in on him as much as they are because he went to Florida. I think it's a lot of bias from Heat fans. Let's get into a scouting report of Walter Clayton Jr. a little bit more, though. The goods here, the 3 things that I really want to discuss. He is clutch. There's no debating that in the SEC tournament. in March Madness when Florida needed a bucket late in the game or they needed to make a big-time play trailing or tied in the fourth quarter. Clayton Jr. made it, whether it was a sidestep right-wing three against UConn, whether it was getting to the free throw line against Houston in the national championship game. Clayton Jr. rose to the occasion, which is very good. His mental makeup is really strong. I like that a lot. He is an elite three-point shooter. Shot 38.6% this past year. High volume. Shot 47.9% from three at the top of the key. So he's a really good shooter from straight on from the rim. And he actually made 28 threes this past year from 25 feet beyond, which is NBA range. So it's not like you would need to have an adjustment there. He shoots deep threes. He's also an offensive engine. He did a really good job this past season to leverage his gravitational pull on the offensive side from opposing defenses to get teammates open, whether players collapsed on him and he would pump fake one dribble swing or pump fake drive inside, have the defense collapse, kick out, average 4.2 assists this past year. Now the bads with Clayton Jr., I mentioned it, he's undersized. The defense is a serious issue. He is not a good team defender. He didn't show much of an ability to defend at the point of attack or his man in isolation settings. And he doesn't get to the rim at all. 26% of his shots came at the rim, which means 74% of his shots were jumpers from beyond the arc, dribble pull-ups, and he only had a 27.5% free throw rate. So didn't get to the line, doesn't get to the rim. So he's not someone who puts pressure on the rim, relies on jump shooting a lot, and that's a concern for me. I simply don't think he's a good fit with Tyler Hero. And when I look at Clayton Jr. as a prospect, I have a second-round grade on him. I do. I have a player comp of Payne Pritchard. That's my comp for him. A sixth-man undersized guard that can light you up from beyond the arc, yes, and is a force to be reckoned with on the offensive end, but really isn't going to give you that much defensively. And I think Payne Pritchard was a better defender coming out of college at Oregon than Walter Clayton Jr. was coming out of Florida this year. Early second-round grade is my grade for him. I think at best case scenario, I mentioned the Andrew Nembhard play style that he is as an off-ball guard to a lead point guard. Yeah, Clayton Jr. played point guard. So did Andrew Nembhard at college. I think the two are very similar to where I don't know if they could be a lead point guard on an NBA team that is successful. Maybe he is. Maybe I'm wrong. But I also don't see the fit next to Tyler Hero. To me, if you draft Clayton Jr. and keep the pick at 20, that is a sixth-man type of guy. But aren't we using Nikola Jovic as a sixth man? Here is the backwards thinking of the Miami Heat that just drives me insane. It kills me. They did not trade Nikola Jovic for KD. They made him untouchable. They didn't put him in talks. So you're going to have a large role for him this year. That would be sixth man because you're not going to start him next to Wiggins, Bam, and Ware. And are you trading Wiggins? Maybe. Well, then Jovic could start the three. Sure, but I assume you're keeping Wiggins at this point. So you have Wiggins, Bam, and Ware as your front court. So Jovic is your sixth man. So then what's Clayton role? And if you re-sign Davion Mitchell, which is reported, who's starting, Clayton or Davion? I don't think Clayton could start. So then Clayton's your seventh, eighth man, your lead guard. I just don't understand if they took Clayton Jr., what their plan is. And that's my issue with the Miami Heat right now. I don't think they have a clear vision. They're stuck in the middle. They weren't willing to go all in to make a Kevin Durant trade. I get it. That's fine. If you don't want to go all in and waste future assets, cool. But if you're not going to go all in and make a win-now move, then you should look to draft a high upside type of player at the 20th pick or someone who fits your roster better, or just look to go rebuild, which they're not going to do that. They're stuck in the middle of mediocrity, and it's what I've been continuing to say on the show day after day after day, and it's why I was either all in going for KD or taking a step back, but they're doing neither. This quote also really bothers me from a report out there from Brett Siegel of Hoops Hype, saying the Heat are said to be valuing experienced prospects in the 2025 NBA draft that can provide an instant impact on the court rather than youthful prospect or projects with long-term upside. And this is the wrong line of thinking. I just kind of went through it. Why are we taking win-now players? And we can look at my board here on the what's it called? On the NBA draft. I had a mental space there. The top two guys I want are kind of swing players. Nolan Traore and Cedric Howard. Those are my top two guys. I don't know if they'll be there at 20, but those are high upside swings that they can be all-stars. I'm not sure you're getting that with a Walter Clayton Jr. I think if you look at the rest of my top five, Fleming, Yeah, he's experienced, but he has a lot of upside as a play finisher and three-point shooter. Nick Clifford is an older prospect that probably is limited in terms of his ceiling, but is a really good piece, and I would definitely prefer Clifford over Walter Clayton Jr. And Adou Thiero is another high upside wing. And then my other five guys are a mixed bag. I would, if you're going the older, experienced guard at 20, I would prefer Cam Jones. I think Jace Richardson, although he is a one and done freshman, I think he is someone that's got a high floor and a high ceiling as well. I just don't have Walter Clayton Jr. as a top 10 prospect on the board for me when it comes to the Miami Heat. I have Clayton Jr. as the 34th overall prospect on my big board. When the Heat are on the clock at 20, if they are keeping that pick, they need to take swings. They do. And I don't see Walter Clayton Jr. as a swing. Because if you're just going to continue to take older prospects that have a limited ceiling but a high floor, then you are just going to continue to build a roster that is good but not great. And you're not going to be able to win a championship. Are you in the business of winning championships? The Miami Heat are supposed to be. Or are you just trying to field good competitive teams to make the playoffs, make money, and then just be first-round playoff exits? If that's the goal, then go ahead. Take Walter Clayton Jr. No problem with that. You sell tickets. Florida fans. But if you're trying to win a championship, you just can't convince me that Walter Clayton Jr. would be a good pick at that 20th overall spot. Make sure you do subscribe. Like we said earlier, we're going to have live coverage of the NBA draft, but we're also putting out daily content the entire offseason leading us up to this new season that begins in mid-October. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a piece of our content. Segue into some trade rumors now. Could this one be a blockbuster with the Sacramento Kings trading for Malik Monk and Devin Carter? Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype here. I also meant to say Brett Siegel was clutch points earlier. Excuse me on that. The Kings have expressed a desire to acquire a first-round pick in the 2025 NBA draft. Amid those conversations, Sacramento has gauged the trade market on guards Malik Monk and Devin Carter, sources said. I am very intrigued with this. And we showed the report a week ago when talking about a potential DeMar DeRozan trade that the Kings have told NBA free agents, or NBA agents in the draft that they expect to have a pick in the early 20s. And I speculated that could be Miami with DeRozan. Well, maybe I was a little bit off on that. And the speculation should have been Malik Monk or Devin Carter. And the Heat trade for them to send out some assets in the 20th overall pick. And there have been reports by Sacramento Kings radio hosts that there have been some conversations between Miami and Sacramento, but not for DeMar DeRozan. And then if that's the case, the most logical options would be either Keegan Murray, Malik Monk, and Devin Carter. But I don't think the Kings are willing to trade Keegan Murray, so then that goes to Devin Carter and Malik Monk, who Malik obviously has a really good relationship with Adebayo. They're really close friends, played college 1 year together at Kentucky, and we could see that come to fruition. Talk more about that here in a second, but make sure you do get your Miami Heat draft hats right now. Chatsports.com/Heat 2025 draft hats. Links in the description and comments of today's video. Any style, any size, get yours today. Represent the Miami Heat. I think they're all sweet. They got bucket hats too. One more time, chatsports.com/Heat 2025 draft hats. Link is in the description and comments of today's video. I think Malik Monk is a very interesting player to add to this Heat roster. Is it going to be a needle mover? No. But adding him and Devin Carter could be fascinating. And I got to be honest, I was a little unfamiliar with Malik Monk's game, but doing a little bit more deep dive on him, he's a better offensive engine than I initially thought. My original belief was to where it's like, okay, he's just going to be someone that comes off the bench, is a scorer, because that's been his role. And that still is his role, averaging more than 15 points a game over the past couple of seasons, playing in 72 and 65, which is good. He actually started about 40-plus games this year since De'Aaron Fox got traded. He ended up being one of those starting guards in the backcourt. But the part that really shocked me, one, not as efficient from three as I initially thought, but look at those assist numbers. Back-to-back years of 5-plus assists for the Kings. A little surprised with his playmaking. Now, he did average 2.1 turnovers per game and 2.6 turnovers per game over the past couple of seasons. So he is a little bit of a turnover-worthy prone guy, but still a 2-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. And I'll be honest, as long as you're giving me at least 2-to-1 as a lead ball handler, that can be fine with me. That is my threshold. You got to have a 2-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio if you're going to handle the ball consistently on my basketball team. But I don't know if he could fit next to Tyler in terms of a starting role, and I think that would probably be a disaster. But having Malik Monk come off the bench, and maybe you do start Davion then in that role, because then Monk would be a much better complementary piece off the bench to where he could actually handle the ball, and you could put Tyler and Malik next to each other at spurts and times. But another reason why I'm intrigued with these reports is more or less for Devin Carter, the rookie out of Providence that was selected in the lottery last season. He got off to a rough start to his career due to injury, then came off the bench. He only played 11 minutes per game, appeared in 36, and he didn't really get his feet wet. He kind of struggled all rookie year long, averaged 3.8 points per game. But the reason why I like Devin Carter is his size. He's 6'2.5" in terms of his shoes, but he's got a 6'8" wingspan. He is incredibly long. He's incredibly disruptive on the defensive end, which is the reason why I really liked him last year. And let's flash back to a year ago. You look at my video, Miami Heat NBA Draft Big Board by the Heat Report. That was 1 year ago, so right before the draft. My big board for the Heat, my top 5. Jared McCain, the guard from Duke, who the Heat obviously passed on. He was taken 1 pick after to the 76ers, and he looked like he was going to win Rookie of the Year before he tore his meniscus. You see Devin Carter was my number 2 guy. Oh, and then the guy the Heat actually took, Kel'el Ware, number 3. So, listen, I kind of do know what I'm talking about here, as much as some people like to think I don't. I really liked McCain. I really liked Devin Carter. I really liked Kel'el Ware. Those were my top 3 for a reason. And if you look at my overall big board, Devin Carter was number 10. It was a weaker draft class last year compared to this year, but I do believe if you transplanted Devin Carter as a prospect from last year into this year's draft, he would be much higher than pick number 20, per se. He would be in that same range of a Nick Clifford, a Rasheer Fleming, around that 13, 14, 15 range in my book. Would he be number 10? No, but he would be still in that late lottery 15, 16 range, in my opinion. So, if the Heat were to make a trade, what would it look like? I think this is a very fair trade. Malik Monk and Devin Carter for Duncan Robinson, Jaime Jaquez Jr. in the 20th overall pick. You can argue that although Devin Carter was selected in the lottery last season, Jaime's got more value because Jaquez, even though he had a down year last season, has been relatively productive over his first 2 years in the league, as Devin really didn't do anything as a rookie. Malik Monk makes $18 million this upcoming season. He's got 3 years left on his deal. So you can argue Duncan in a first-round pick, expiring, could be waived and saved Sacramento money. The Kings get a first. They get a young wing. They get a bench shooter or someone they can waive for salary purposes, and they could get rid of Malik Monk and Devin Carter. I think it's a fair deal for both sides if we're going to be honest. And let me know, would you do this deal? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know your thoughts on if you would trade Duncan, Jaime, and the 20th pick for Malik Monk and Devin Carter. I actually would. And I've been very open about wanting to keep the 20th pick unless I'm trading it for a player like Kevin Durant. And although I don't think this is a needle-moving move, I do think long-term this could really work out for Miami. Monk's contract has 3 years left. 18, 20, 21 and a half. And the final year is a player option. So I don't think it's a negative contract by any means because you're only paying him at most $20 million a season, which is $1 million more than Duncan Robinson. And Malik Monk is a better overall player than Duncan and could be a really good player off the bench for Miami. I like his fit there. Puts pressure on the rim. Can handle it. Would run a pick and roll with Bam well and would make Adebayo happy. Not that he's getting a star, but getting one of his close friends. And I don't think it's got to be said here. I love Devin Carter. I think I've expressed that enough throughout this video, as well as if you go back and watch our content from a season ago. Devin could play on ball, he could play off ball, and if you are committing to Tyler Hero being your lead ball handler, Devin Carter could absolutely play the 2 guard with his size and defensive ability, and I think he's going to continue to improve with more health. He also was a Heat fan, by the way, Devin Carter. You could just go back to his Twitter. He was tweeting F it, Heat in 4, talking about the Heat Nuggets 2023 NBA Finals. This guy, before the NBA draft, was a Heat fan. So why not get that back in Miami? I love that. I love his physicality, love his defense, love his mentality. I compared him last year coming out of the draft to Josh Hart because he's so aggressive on the glass, his size, with a 3-point shot. I think that'd be pretty nice to fit in this Heat backcourt. All right, I'll do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed. We'll have a video on my final Heat draft targets and big board tomorrow morning, as well as live for the NBA draft. We'll break down who the Heat pick tomorrow evening as well, assuming they keep that selection. Subscribe for the top Heat coverage on YouTube.